What's up, everybody? Welcome to Song 43, a podcast for those of you looking to get a deeper look at how this creator creates while being a mom, working full time, and doing all the things. All the things involves prepping for the holidays. Once again, that's kind of where my mind is at. And also trying to crank out videos that are due for work in this awesome setup that I have. And it's kind of something that I don't talk about too often on the podcast, but if you're watching online, you can see on YouTube what the setup looks like, but it's basically a neon sign behind me that says "Sound Extraordinary." That is Shure's kind of slogan, and some cool artwork, some vintage ads from Shure, a couple guitars or a guitar and a bass and a keyboard behind me, a couple keyboards, and some lighting in front of me, which I haven't really talked about before, but I have a diffused light box in front of me. I have a Sony ZV-E10 camera in front of me, which I'm very blessed to have access to thanks to my job. I have a Shure MV7 that I'm talking into, which sounds amazing, and this cool branded Gator boom arm that my microphone is hanging from. So that's my setup, and I'm doing these new videos in this setup, which is very, very cool to have access to and be able to do, where I can use what we talked about last week, Ecamm Live, push record, and instantly capture some content that I can then edit very easily and quickly because using Ecamm Live and this thing called Stream Deck, which is, if you're watching, this little guy that has little scene selectors on it, I can set up scenes and then toggle between them so I don't have to do any editing of flying in different scenes. So, for example, I can have one scene that's straight on me camera wise, and then another scene that I can switch to that is an overhead shot of a product. And then I can just speak throughout the entire thing and not have to worry about doing jump cuts or edits. So that's what I'm kind of in right now, holiday prep mode and video production mode, which is like insane. Because, I'm not a videographer, but I have learned how to be one because of my job, which is super fun. And I pulled up Honey last week and I'm so excited for where it is. And I'm just trying to figure out if it needs something else in the bridge. But, I got to get something out there and it's going to happen sooner rather than later. So I know I keep saying that, but, it's hard because when you do put this out there and put a song out there, and I've talked about this before, it's not just this instant gratification thing where you're like, I'm going to upload a song today, boop, and it's distributed out to all the services. You have to upload it to a publishing distribution service, in my case, CD Baby, which I've been with for 22 years. 20, yeah, 22 years. And you submit your project, your CD at that point in 2001, or your song to them, and they prepare it in digital format to be distributed to all of these different platforms so that you can be able to be heard all over the world. And they also manage my monetization. So any of the sales that are generated from people streaming and listening to my music is managed through CD Baby. But they take a cut, which sucks. But that is fine because it's not my main meat and potatoes. But if it were or was, yikes. Because, yeah, I mean, I get a check every month for like $11. And that's not bad, but that's not great either. Because there's, a good amount of streams in there, and I'm not even trying. I think if people are trying, hopefully they're making a lot more, but anyway, where the hell am I going? Anyway, it's not that easy to just put a song out there. Now you can produce a song and upload it to your website and then distribute it that way. So maybe I should just start doing that, but I really just need to just suck it up and get songs out. I just need the time to do it. I need the time to create a podcast website for Song 43. If anyone wants to volunteer and do that, that'd be rad. And then, yeah, just make 2024 the year of promoting this stuff, which I've tried to do for the past couple of years, but, life, all the things get in the way in a good way because it's life. What else happened? So I caroled over the weekend for the first time this season. And this weekend we did one Saturday was outdoors in the shops at Audubon, and Sunday was at the Yale bookstore where we were indoors for the entire time because it was pouring rain. And that was fun. It's super weird though, people are coming in to shop and you're just standing at the top of this balcony at the Yale bookstore belting out "Deck the Halls," and, it's weird. It's weird, but it's also fun. So it was nice to sing with my we I sang with my friend Don and Vicky, and Don, we said every time we sang "Deck the Halls," Don, we now are gay apparel. So we were Don's gay apparelettes, and it was very fun. Yes, we were decked out in our gay apparel. And singing carols it's a very interesting experience because, you've been singing them your whole life, right? Most of us, if you celebrate Christmas, know the Christmas songs. Even if you don't celebrate Christmas, you probably know them. Sorry for those of you who don't. There are some earworms there. So, you know them, but then when you're singing them in three-part harmony in traditional caroling garb in public, it's a different ballgame. But we did great and we had fun. But it's 3 hours, and 3 hours is long. That seems to be just the going length of time for shows. I really think that we should, as musicians, just say, "You know what? 2 hours is probably fine." Why does anyone need to hear me for 3 hours? You're only gonna pay me a certain amount. It's not gonna be enough. So why don't we just say, "Hey, you know what? 2 hours is gonna be great. I will play for the bulk of those 2 hours. I don't need to take a big break." And then, yeah, let's start doing that. What do you think, people? Anyway, side rant. So last night I went out with some friends and we were having drinks at a local establishment. And it's kind of a loud restaurant because it's got brick everywhere. And they've done some acoustic treatments on the ceilings by putting up these kind of like acoustic panels. If you're in a restaurant next time, look up and see what they've got going on in the ceiling. If it's loud, they might not have anything up there. Or even if they do, if it has high ceilings and hardwood floors and glass windows, it's still going to be noisy. So it was very noisy. This was a Tuesday night, but, we were out having a great time, and in this particular place, the bar is right next to tables. So there's no separation of bar from restaurant, and there were some people at the bar having a great time and being, I guess, loud according to the table of people next to us, and the table of people next to us started a little, like, scuffle with these people saying, "You're being too loud and, have some decency," and then my table gets into the fray and they're like, "Well, if it's too loud for you, you should leave," and I'm just sitting there kinda like, "Wow." Normally, I would be all up in this, but I'm just, like, popping some popcorn and watching this go down because, like, I can see it from both sides. I can see the older people at the table next to us being frustrated because maybe they don't hear as well. Maybe they have hearing aids like my mom does, and they can't, hear over the loud talking and laughter of other people, and it gets really hard after a certain period of time, so I'm seeing it from their perspective, but then I'm seeing it from my friend's perspective and mine because 'cause I'm like, "Yeah, dude, if it's too loud, like, ask the hostess to move you. Don't yell at the people at the bar who are having obviously a great time when all you need to do is get up and say, 'I'm sorry, you guys are being a little loud. Can you just keep it down?'" But instead, they went the, like, passive aggressive way of yelling, and the straight up aggressive way of just yelling at them, so it was awkward. So I went over and I talked to the table of older people because I knew a couple of them. And I was like, "Hey, this is a really loud place, and it's not the fault of the people at the bar. It's the fault of the establishment to have the bar in such close proximity to tables." So, my friends were just kind of saying like, "If you don't want to be with the noise, just move to another place." But they thought that my friends were being too rude and aggressive and that they, quote, "have different values than they do." So I said my piece. It was super weird. Normally, I'm the one that's like, "Ah," heckling and like, "Yeah, get out if you can't take the heat," whatever. I had this really weird experience where I just like, I can see this from all angles right now. So, anyway, I think everybody is just a little crispy right now, as my friend says. I think we're all just crispy. I think we're all tense. I think it's not even just because it's the holidays, but that just accentuates it. We're all, just wound up. And, like, the slightest thing, we're just waiting for it to happen so that we can just, like, go scorched earth on somebody and, rail on them. And it's like, wow, we're hurting right now as a collective humanity. So it was weird, but it was nice to see my friends and we had a great time regardless. But that definitely put a damper on the evening temporarily. So my moral of the story is I'm trying to see it from other people's perspectives, but some people are they're just pissed off or they're hurt and they don't know how to say it. So everybody needs to, I don't know, take a beat and just sit back and try to process things a little bit more before lashing out. Okay. Anyway, all right, it's time to get back to the real world, but it's lovely as always to chat with you for a bit. I've been getting some more comments from you, which I really appreciate. And, if you go to at Laura Clap Music and put a comment on Facebook or on Instagram, when I post about the new episodes, that's where I can see it the easiest. If you go to Spotify, there's some Q&A in there that I think Spotify magically creates, which I always forget to check. So I'm not ignoring you if you're in there. I just don't see it as easily as on social media. But thank you so much for listening. Remember to tell somebody about the podcast because that always helps. And thank you for watching on YouTube if you're joining me there. And I hope you have a fantastic rest of your week. And as always, thanks for listening.